welcome to Meet the Candidates. I'm Deanne Healy, your host, and this forum is designed to help you connect with the folks that are running for position in the city. So today I have Suzanne Cox with me. She's running for school committee. So Suzanne, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Sure thing. So Suzanne, let's just start with what inspired you to throw your hat in the ring to run for school committee?
It's a great first question. I truly think that, public education should be the gold standard of education. I have the best memories of my public education growing up. My husband is a Peabody graduate. He went through all of public education here in Peabody himself. And we have two young girls. I have a daughter who's turning 3 in November. And we just got the call that she was, taken off the wait list for a preschool that I was waiting for in Peabody, which was very exciting. But, because of that, I know that there are some things in Peabody public education that I think need to be refined and fixed. And I really want to help support and be part of a committee that's going to create and foster an education system that I'm proud to send my daughters to, and I'm confident to send my daughters in. And I have two young girls. I have my 3-year-old and a 15-month-old.
Oh gosh,
so
you're
we're both
busy.
going to be I am busy, but it's there's never a good time in life to do these things, and so I think now is better than ever to start being the change that I want to see for my daughters.
Great. So, Suzanne, you mentioned in your statement that there was something in particular that you wanted to address on the school committee level, and could you just elaborate a little bit on what that was?
Yeah, of course. So, by my career, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I work in special education. I'm the director of occupational therapy at the Children's Center for Communication, Beverly School for the Deaf.
Okay.
And so I am very familiar with, what it takes to see success in students. I work with very medically complex children. I work with, students who learn very differently and uniquely. And I know that in order to make, success and, see the changes that we want to see and the growth in our students, we have to work together as a team. And our team includes our students and our families and the related service providers and your teachers and your TAs. And then you get to your administration and everyone, those like bigger umbrella positions. They're all on the team. And right now, I feel like a lot of those relationships are splintered in Peabody. I feel like there's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of lack of communication.
Right.
And so I truly think that like me coming in with a different perspective of a team, a collaboration, I know I can't do my job without everyone else doing their job. Having that approach and really wanting to work together with our families and with our students and kind of mend those relationships, I think is like one of the top priorities that I feel like can kind of take away some of this animosity that we feel and things like that.
Sure.
Moving into these next, couple of years.
Sure. Do you have any ideas about how to open up that line of communication so it kind of goes back and forth?
Yeah, I definitely think it starts with just during school committee meetings when something is being brought to the table, that there's a clear explanation of what's being brought to the table. If we're talking during budget season about removing positions, what is the position? What's already existing in the school system? Is there something that's already in place? What is the reasoning? The why? Asking those big why questions of, is this the best, route that we have to go? Are there better alternatives? And really trying to think creatively and outside the box. So I think that's really where it starts, is providing all that background information that is not necessarily known to the public.
Right.
Obviously, being on a committee like this, there is information, as the director of occupational therapy, there's information that you don't share,
Right.
But if it's something as here's the explanation and where we're coming from, so it's clear enough that everyone understands, like, oh, we have 2 of these positions. It's okay if we're looking to get rid of one because this one is servicing the needs that we have. But if that's not made clear and our community members are just understanding we're getting rid of somebody, then there's uproar and there's, families who are struggling with that concept, whereas like if they know the services are going to be met.
Sure.
Because
there's another way to achieve it. Yes.
Then I think that's the proper first steps.
Right. And I think we all fall into that trap sometimes, right? We all know sometimes the background and the history, but we don't realize that the people who are listening in for the first time don't know that things have been thought through.
Exactly. And, social media, the world that we live in, it changes the game completely.
Sure.
There's, hearsays, and there's this is what's going on, and this is what I think, and it's how people read into things on social media that,
Sure.
it could be a blessing and a curse, right? So, so I think that's something that, like, trying to, even if it's, creating a social media outlet page for the school committee that's a little clearer and can provide, a more in-depth explanation. It goes back to our websites being clearer and more, being able to navigate them more and find the information that you need easier and having it more accessible.
Sure.
I think it's all kind of linked together.
Right, right. You touched on the fact that sometimes, especially this past year, there's positions that have been eliminated that cause concern. It doesn't look like next year will be any different. The budget constraints for the school funding is getting more difficult each and every year. What do you see for the future there, and how do you would go about prioritizing cuts?
Obviously, the most important thing are our student-facing positions, right? Keeping the positions that are working directly with our students, that are benefiting our students, need to stay there. There's, so many positions there's only so many positions in our school, right? And there's only so much funding. I think it's going to be really important to, as we continue to move forward, looking at, more creative ways to bring funding in, looking at alternative grants, looking at alternative fundraising opportunities, really starting to think outside the box a little more, looking at partnerships, this is going to sound so funny coming from somebody who works at an out-of-district placement. My career and my livelihood relies on out-of-district placements. But really thinking how we can start pulling students back in who an out-of-district placement might not be the most necessary placement for them. There's this large scaffolding of events that have to happen in order for a student to get to an out-of-district placement, which is where then Peabody is spending a lot of money and sending these students to where they are going to get their schooling and the services that they need. But I think if we start investing more money into some of our programming here, we can maybe start keeping more students in-house versus sending them out.
Right.
And so I think if we start thinking about where our investments are internally with the wonderful programs that we already have, Peabody has a wealth of programs. There are, archives of, resources for our teachers and our families, but it's how well are they being utilized and how well are they being implemented with our students. And so whether that be, looking at investing in more, professional development for teachers in order to have these programs be as robust as they can, or, is it parent education and providing more parental education, and how can we do that, whether it be workshops or online webinars, things like that. So just really starting to get creative with where our money's going and how it's being utilized.
Right. One of the things that has been a hot topic for the last at least 6 months, I think, is bullying in the school. What is your position on that, in terms of, how the students should be reprimanded, or, how do you get parents in to talk about what's happening with the children?
Yeah, I think there's a multitude of things that need to get done surrounding this topic. Obviously, the first steps have been taken with mental health resources and, opening up the mental resource facilities and, trying to staff schools with the counselors that they need. However, I think it's a much bigger conversation than that, right? So I think first and foremost, there needs to be a clear process, right? Of, hey, this is how you report it. This is where it goes. This is where you report again, like if it's a repeat. There has to be some due process that is followed. Right now, it's very much like, well, does the teacher go to the principal? Does the principal bring it here? Who's in charge of what? And it's different at every school, it seems. And so I think there has to be one solid process that every staff member is trained on. And then from there, I think there's conversation of, what is the right approach? Is it detentions? Is it suspensions? What's that step for the person who is doing the bullying? Because I think a lot of the focus is also on the person being bullied. Yes, they need support. They need to be supported. They need to be educated. They need to be provided counseling that's necessary. They need to feel safe in their school, right? So yes, those are things that I think Peabody is trying very hard and working on. But where I think they're missing the piece is what's happening with the bully. And so, in programs in college and in programs in, driver's ed and things like that, if you have so many citations because you've sped too many times, you have to go back to school, driving school, and learn how to fix it and why you continue to make these issues, right? So I think a big piece is, a bully isn't bullying because they woke up one day thinking it might be fun, I think a bully is doing it because they have some things going on internally, right? There's either stress at home or stress at school. Their mental health isn't well. And so we need to start thinking about a program to help not necessarily rehab, but like reshape and teach them and let them learn as to why they're doing this and how they can support themselves better and cope with the things that they're going through without outlashing at other students. And so I think it just has to be like a multitude. There has to be a process. You have to look at both sides of it and really provide the tools and the resources for all the kids, because you can suspend somebody, you can put somebody in detention. What if they learned I got a day off of school?
Right.
And maybe a day off at school and I'm where I have the most chaos, or I don't have the structural support that I need, or, whatever it may be that's causing them to lash out as a bully. So really trying to think how we can support both ends. I think it's a very important thing on both sides.
I think that's smart. Peabody has approved building a new high school. There's also a lot of frustration with the technical school in Danvers that people want to go, and we only have so many spots. What is your feeling on bringing some of those programs back to the high school?
I am so glad that you asked this question. I am somebody who loves education, right? So like I would still be in school. I would still be learning. I had my doctorate from MGH. Like I have a high level of education behind me. I would still be in school if it wasn't for student loans. If I didn't have to continue to rack up student loans, I would find different programs to just continue, right? That's not everyone.
No.
Right? I think it's so important to be able to have an education system that suits every single student in their individual learning paths, right? And right now, yes, there are, vocational programming in Peabody. But what they're missing are those trade schools, right? Those trades that people are able to graduate high school and go and get into the union right away and create a really solid foundation for the rest of their lives. College isn't for everyone, and that's fine. And, we have to start educating and saying that it's okay. It's okay if your interest lies in automobiles. It's okay if it lies in electricity. Like, let's foster that, right? So I am like 100% in support of when the high school building comes and when those conversations are being made about what's going in it, how are we building, how are we planning this building, there will be I will be bringing a lot of advocacy towards bringing back vocational work. I also think it's really, it's difficult because right now at the technical school, students that are going there and getting in there are the top of the students, right? They're the top 10%. So the student that really truly deserves and needs to go to the technical school, who might be falling in that 50 to 60% of the, age appropriateness or whatever, attendance at school,
right?
They're not getting in, but if they got in, they might go to school every single day.
Right.
And then they would graduate with their technical degree and they would go and work right away. Whereas the students who are going and learning these amazing skills and then going to college.
Right.
And so it's really taking away the spots right now from students who really would benefit from it. And I think that's something that needs to start, that narrative needs to start changing. We need to start saying Peabody, you can get a great education here. You don't have to be looking out to get your great high school education.
Right. And, coming from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, I can tell you that all of those trades are looking for people, and a lot of them end up being their own business owner as well. So, there's definitely a path there. Exactly. Believe it or not, we are up against our time. So just share with me, what do you think makes you different or sets you apart from some of the other folks that might be running for a position on school committee?
I think one thing that really sets me apart is my background, right? So if you look at our current school committee, we have a lot of lawyers, a lot of attorneys, and obviously wonderful professions. You need them. You need their brains and how they approach different things. But I think coming from a career that I work with families, I understand families, I support them at an individual level. I think that perspective is going to bring more of that that student first, that student centered lens that might need to be, improved upon in our school committee.
Sure. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you wanted to share with the viewers?
I just would hope that in the next couple of weeks, as I'm out knocking on doors, it's, a pretty challenging thing when I'm knocking with a 3-year-old. I have to stop at a lot of parks and check out every slide.
Love that.
And if you see me with my girls, like, make sure to stop, say hi. I'm trying. Peabody is massive. There's so many places to get to. So just knowing that, I'm out there, we're working, trying to connect with as many people and families as possible. And I really want to hear, and I really want to try to support.
Great.
And be that ear that can bring it to the table.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it, and good luck
Thank you
next
so much.
month.
Just make sure to get out and vote in November.